Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello, welcome back to How Leaders Behave, and today we're exploring the diplomatic ways of the humble leader. Welcome back to Mark Hall. My name is Peter Agnew, and we're going through this series, Mark, and it's a really nice sort of leadership approach in this regard. And I think more and more leadership experts are really starting to understand the importance of humility in leadership.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, as I think you've noticed through the show that the people that are the self-promoters tend to live in the Northern Hemisphere. And the unlikely leaders turn up in the Southern Hemisphere. But there's a gentleman I know that ran a very, very large enterprise that examples this behavior beautifully and was an incredibly effective leader.
Yeah, definitely. And we see so many examples of that. And so much in our leadership training these days is around humility, truth, humility, getting into that humbleness is a real
It's one of the biggest gaps, I have to say.
Yeah. So let's have a look where it is when it comes to our 8 dimensions of leadership. We are using the 8 dimensions of leadership model, a Wiley product from the 363 for leaders. It's right at our 6 o'clock mark, isn't it? Right down the bottom of the circumplex. And we'll see that we've got 3 behaviors there. So in this series, we're looking at 24 behaviors that are really important to leaders. We've got 8 approaches to leadership. If we try to break down the complexity of leadership, this model helps us try to figure out the behaviors that a leader would use. Of course, Mark, it really overlays well with our DISC model as well. So they're both Wiley products, both DISC products in some ways.
And I think what you'll notice the most is, the further south you come, the much more slowly, the more deliberately. One of the challenges with the humble leader in delivery is that it can be a little bit monotone, a little bit unexciting to listen to. Anyway, we'll cover some of that.
And it is that calmness and stability. And it's a moderate speed. The top half is that much more faster, dynamic, bold pace. This one's that really nice, stable, calm environment, which will really typify some of the behaviors we look at.
And so what's interesting about this style now is, so we started at pioneering that had some aspects of the D. What we're beginning to see for the first time is aspects of the C coming in. So we've done, D, the I, and the S. We're coming into a new territory now, which is this conscientious piece. So you're going to see some different behavioral traits now.
Yeah, because we have really moved from the right-hand side there, the people aspect, seeing the environment as favourable, moving across to the left-hand side or the west of the profile, moving into a more task-orientated and a little bit more assessing or sceptical of the environment as well.
And perceived as a bit critical, perhaps.
Yeah,
can be.
So let's have a look at the lessons that people can learn from the humble leader as we do that big deep dive in, Mark, as we start having a run through at their best. What does the humble leader look like? Certainly modest, fair-minded, some of those attributes come straight to play for this leadership style.
I think the one that leaps out the page for me there is the consistency piece. Because people on the leaders from the Northern Hemisphere, if they've had a bad morning or things aren't going well, they not only wear it, they explode all around the office. And so you'll go in and ask a perfectly reasonable question, and the leader will explode at just the fact you happen to be in there. One of the most remarkable things about these guys is their ability to be fair and consistent and reliable, and that steadiness piece.
Yeah, the calm under fire sort of stuff as well is a really important part.
And interesting about emotional intelligence as well. I mean, obviously it's a different measure, but these guys really rein back that need to be emotionally demonstrative, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. And at their worst, there's probably a number of attributes that come through. Sometimes the rigidity is about that predictability in the environment. I like a set routine. I like things how they are. I like that consistency because that's a safe place to be for me as a leader. It's a space that I'm familiar with. It's a space that I like to be that isn't risky in some ways as well.
That's the whole point. As leaders, they don't really want to lead. I mean, they don't actually want to be seen. What they'd like to be is almost invisible.
Or administrating leadership in some ways.
Administrating leadership, absolutely. Which as a leader, sometimes people need a figurehead, don't they? They need a face to see.
And we'll toy with the idea around the status quo here a fair bit during this episode, because sometimes the management is about the status quo and it's about doing things right, isn't it? It's making sure the budget's on track, it's making sure that the plan's being executed, it's going through and making sure policies and procedures are sort of underway.
And these guys kill this.
And the humble leader
Yeah.
are really fantastic at that. But leadership is a bit different to management sometimes, isn't it? Leadership is about change in some ways. It's about things that aren't in the status quo. It's about taking people to a different place.
Yeah, aspiring people to be more than they were.
Yeah.
And if you're playing small, that's
Yeah,
probably
it's a
challenge.
bit of a
isn't
stuck.
it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
and of course that whole process of seeking opportunities and bringing new information and new ways of doing things, continuous improvement, all of that sort of stuff. While our humble leaders are fantastic at some of those attributes of being inclusive with people and bringing people on board and bringing them along, this one can be a bit of a stuck one.
And I think their challenge is I don't want to cause offence. I don't want to do anything new. I don't want to get caught doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
So they sort of get caught up in analysis paralysis, don't they? Sometimes.
I agree. So there is going to be some fantastic lessons that we learn from the humble leader. 3 practices that really stand out here out of our 24 leadership practices in our 8 dimensions of leadership. The maintaining composure one you led with. This is a really important one, isn't it? Because when leaders lose their composure, it makes them not so presentable to others in the way that other people don't want to give them bad news. They don't want to tell them the things that are going wrong. They don't want to tell them that they're going behind schedule and so forth because they're worried about the leader's reaction.
And also, when people maintain composure, it's a lot easier to maintain one's respect for that because you very much know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, these people are probably less likely to gossip.
Yeah.
They're not likely to engage in small talk about stuff, because they want to keep it small.
Yeah.
But that maintaining composure piece is, I think, is something that the profiles of the northern hemisphere can really learn from.
In the disc
Be-
profile.
Yeah, because you are what you get. You very much what you see is what you get.
It's
And
sometimes unfiltered there. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes what comes out, you think,
Yeah.
oh, well, that was actually my external voice.
Yeah.
Whereas you're never going to get that from a humble leader.
Yeah. So there is a really fantastic leadership trait that comes out in this humble leadership, the ability to remain calm. When under pressure, you remain even-keeled and some of those sorts of things. That has a fantastic impact on others around you in the workplace. You know that the leader is steering a steady ship, that the leader, she's exercising an air of caution, but when things do go wrong, that leader is able to still lead quite steadily in some ways as well.
I think it was a wonderful line in Apollo 13. So when they were said, you had 13 minutes left to live. What would you be doing? Focusing on the solution.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And going through and
Yeah.
methodically,
Yeah.
steadily, not rattling everyone else around and going through the process.
Absolutely.
Of course, we do have the old showing modesty as another attribute of the humble leader. We've sort of been through modesty a couple of times in our series here, but this is really about that smallness, a little bit of not overstating one's own ability. It's certainly keeping the ego in check. And as one of the 24 behaviours in our 8 dimensions of leadership, this is another one that's really valued within the workplace as well.
It is, but yet, ironically, in our culture, the Western culture, we want a leader to be, drum thumping, follow me, I've got the banner.
Yeah.
Whereas this leader is 180 degrees away from that. I want to be hiding in the office.
But we also know what happens when you do stand up there. I think the colloquial term is the tall poppy syndrome,
Yeah.
And this leader is quite good at sometimes remaining under the radar and sharing the leadership across the leadership dimension in some ways.
And also recognizing the result of the whole team rather than just say, by the way, did I
it's a
tell you how good I
collective.
was?
Yeah, definitely. So as we move further through, another one that we can look at as one of the really fantastic practices of the humble leader is that fair-mindedness. And I suppose this one, we see so many instances in business and in politics where people do things for what's in it for me.
Yeah.
We see things end up in corruption cases. We see breaches of discrimination, inequity in the workplace, nepotism and cronyism, all those sorts of things. Sometimes the leaders who have a more urgent sense
And
are
more
less moral
egocentric,
compass
yeah.
and more egocentrics will sort of use in some
Yeah.
ways. So the humble leader can be very fair-minded. Even if there's interpersonal difference between someone, they will still treat the workplace fairly and individuals within that workplace
they
fairly.
totally respect your right to have a different opinion
Be different
to mine,
correctly.
and they value that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a fantastic attribute for our humble leaders. 3 behaviours that we can learn from the humble leader that are fantastic in a leadership style. We probably want to take a little bit of a deeper dive
Yep.
at the Humble Leader. So let's have a look at the leadership style at a glance. And if we have a look at the table, we notice some goals there, Mark. Certainly the stability we've talked a little bit about. It's about having a predictable environment, isn't it?
And I think that's as somebody that lives at 180 degrees away from these guys live, when I look at the goals there, the goal is stability, reliable outcomes, a calm
Probably
environment.
going to be agitating
Well,
to you,
I'm
aren't they?
thinking, where's the win? Where's the goal smashing out of the park and all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Obviously, they do that, but in a very different way.
Yeah, but when you think about it as well, because I know when we do profiling with disc profiling and people, there's a lot of people that will come to work that want the routine. They want to come to work the same it was yesterday. They want their desk to be in the same place. They want their stuff to be in the right area. They want the procedures to be the same.
Yeah.
Coming to work where there's constant change can be pretty exhausting for many of us in a disc profile. So this adds a lot of value again in
Yeah.
a way of there's a predictable environment. We know what we're going to get. It's quite consistent and there's a routine there that creates that calm and reliable.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.